Amanda, what is going on?
Hey Keith, you look like you're ready to hit the road again. You got your shades on, your ball cap on. You almost look like you're in vacation mode.
I am always on vacation mode, Amanda. I have a gypsy soul, I think, and I could leave as early as now, and I am not. A disclaimer that's not included on that disclaimer list there, which we can take that off the screen if you want. But a disclaimer that's not included on that is no one on this publication or this broadcast is driving while they're videoing. So
we're being safe and definitely following Indiana law.
Yeah, if you are looking over my left shoulders, what you will see is Kimball World Headquarters. And so this car is not moving, but it sure is a nice prop.
I can clearly read Tyvex, that's for sure.
I learned a long time ago, like a decade or more ago, that when we travel, we always have gifts for people that help us or bless us along the way. And I might have shown this to people in the past. This is kind of one of our mantras. My daughter, Casey, I believe, made this logo for us. And the idea is the journey is greater than or more important than the destination. And I can't recall in our last journey if I told you the RV broke down and I had a one-day vacation, and then we started our next real vacation the next day. And so I think as people are thinking about life and realizing that there will be disruptions, it makes sense not only with travel thoughts, but with your financial thoughts as well, because financial plans are simply a kind of a estimate of what's going to happen and not the reality of how things in life comes at you fast, I think was the commercial. And so we're all about helping families navigate the road ahead of them and adapting to the uncertainties in front of them. And so that was a gift we gave a couple of years ago. I like wearing it because it protects my dome against these sunny days. So
I know we talked about that. Oh, it's great. I'm on my journey every day. So I know we kind of touch base on that last week, but what are some observations you're seeing today?
Well, on this last trip that we took, and I don't want to, I try to be Mr. Positive, so any negativity is just simply an observation and not, well, there may be a slight opinion. I'm an opinionated person, I'm breathing, but one of the things I observed on the road was that the for-profit businesses are open and figuring out how to navigate this new world we live. Unfortunately, not all the government businesses are open, and yet they're often the ones telling people how to navigate this thing, and yet they're not even doing it themselves. I would give props to the U.S. Post Office because I don't think they've missed a beat. They've tried their best. They get a lot of bad PR historically, but maybe it's the fact that there's other entities out there pressuring them to stay relevant. If Amazon and if FedEx and UPS can deliver, probably it would suggest that the Postal Service would as well. We noticed even with our project here is like zoning offices aren't very quick in responding and getting things done. Yet us at Gimbal, we're not really slowing down in our service with our clients. We're trying to be as efficient as always. And so it seems like if a small business like Gimbal Financial is able to adapt to this new world, that somebody with more resources like a government entity should be prepared for it, because they put those regulations on us and they should be able to adapt quicker. And so I also noticed that people that didn't file their taxes electronically, I heard of one person who got their tax refund back in July that they filed in February. And so kind of interesting to me. But one of the practical things I saw on the road was that the for-profit hotels that we stayed at, they adapted to the best of their ability. They had the plexiglass screens up. They had printed spots on the floor where to stand, so you're social distancing. They had holders for pens, for clean pens and used pens. They had all kinds of things for those hotels to make it work. But when we were at Old Faithful, the Old Faithful Inn, which is one of the most beautiful hotels I've ever seen, is closed down and locked down. And it seemed like to me that if the for-profit people could figure it out, that maybe those in our government could figure out how to be more efficient as well. So that was an observation I saw, that the for-profit businesses are trying their best.
I would totally agree with you. Well, and that's just the flexibility of being an entrepreneur, whether it is a big or small business, but we have the freedoms and the independence in our country to be able to do that. And on the topic of state government, I have a friend that works locally at one, and she's actually not going back into the office because the office has 3,000 people in it. So that makes sense as to why they aren't being as adaptive, because it's just there's a lot of people in there, and a place like Gimbal where we've got a 4-person operation, we can be that kind of adaptive. So
yeah, I think it offers us the opportunity to really excel to the service to our clients. It allows clients to consider whether they want somebody that's that flexible versus maybe a more traditional stodgy business that doesn't have that flexibility. So I think we're really doing a nice job on that. You know, one of the other observations I saw even in the hotels that I thought was interesting, and I'd heard this before, one hotel we went to was a very large hotel and had 3 elevators, and they had a sign limiting each elevator to 2 people per elevator. And it's like, I don't even know how that profit model works, because if they had a full hotel, which they didn't, the people would be so frustrated, I think, waiting on elevators to abide by that rule, that it'd be very difficult. So and then if you take that same idea into New York City, where there's really large buildings with masses of people, I don't even know how people navigate, particularly if you're on a 60th floor. On this hotel was only like 5 or 6 floors, so you could go up and down the steps if you wanted, but 60 floors would be pretty prohibitive against that. So it'll be really interesting to see how that unfolds. Yeah. One of the so the entrepreneurial things I saw are really what stirred my soul. Halfway between Bismarck and the North Dakota Western state line, there's an exit for a town called Gladstone, North Dakota, and that road heading south is world famous, according to Guinness. It's the world famous Enchanted Highway.
Really?
Yeah. You should put that on your bucket list, the world famous Enchanted Highway. They're in the Guinness Book of World Records because on that interstate, I forget what it was, like I-94 or something like that. Right there is the largest scrap metal sculpture in the world. It's
impressive.
Yeah, it's geese flying in the background of the sun, and it is 110 feet high, which is huge. That would be the equivalent, I think, of a 10-story building, and 154 feet wide.
Wow.
And since we valued the journey, is that what I said? The journey more than the destination, we turned off on that road. And probably it was probably 2 hours out of our way where we were going, but since we were worrying about the journey, we went and checked this thing out. In 1989, Gary Greff decided that small towns were getting a bad rap by interstates, where the interstates were bypassing them, and Americans were missing out on the small towns. And so in 89, he built his first sculpture from scrap metal. And then on the next, I think it's like a 30-mile road, he has 8 or 9 sculptures similar to that he's spaced out to entice travelers to go into the towns along that little road. And we did. We went all the way to the end. We got to the end of the road, and I thought, I'm going to buy some postcards or something, because this is a pretty fascinating thing. It was very impressive, in my opinion. And even though I'm not driving, I'm still watching traffic. I'm sorry.
Your ADD's really kicking in.
It's like, these cars are coming by. So we went into the visitor center there, and there was a guy making sandwiches and stuff, and there were some locals sitting there having lunch, and they said, hey, right there's the sculptor. And so we got to meet the guy that actually did this in 1989 and had a nice conversation with him. Each one of those sculptures took him 8 years of time to build, and he scattered them all along the way, 6 or 8 years, I forget it. And so probably if the first one went up in 89, he probably started it in the early 80s. And he's got one more he's working on, which we went and saw. And it's just an interesting thing, but his efforts created commerce and business for all of his friends that lived in those communities on that 30-mile stretch that wouldn't have otherwise been there.
That's awesome. And it sounds like he's on his own journey too.
He was not shut down for the COVID. He was working that thing. And so we were one car. We stopped at an instant, and then the other cars that were with us that journeyed the same pace that we were. There were 5 cars at each one of the sculptures that we stopped at that specific moment in the morning. And so who knows how many hundreds and hundreds of cars go into those towns because of his efforts over the last 40 years or so. So that was interesting. Then in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, you ever been there?
I can't say I have.
I highly recommend it. I don't even know why, other than it had a cool vibe to the town. We spent the night there and went downtown and explored downtown a little bit. But right by our hotel was a sporting goods store named Shields Sporting Goods. And last week I told you about the Culvers that had the hunting blind as a shack. Well, in the same parking lot. Yeah, in the same parking lot was Shields Sporting Goods, and it caught my eye because I noticed some people sitting on benches up there. They had a bench on each side of the entryway, and it was big. It was big like other sporting good names that you would know. And so I walked over there, and on one of those benches had George Washington, and the other one had Thomas Jefferson. These were statues as though they were paid for with public money rather than private money. They were very classy statues, and beside each one of them, they had a little history of both of those gentlemen and the impact that they've had on the freedoms that we have in America. And so I became a fan of Shields Sporting Goods, that they cared enough about what America is about to put those statues in their parking lot, really in the front entranceway. And then we noticed that sporting goods store along the way everywhere. And it looked to be, as I researched it, a privately owned company. Oh. And then my final, I saw a bunch of capitalism. I'll tell you the next time, but my final retail one that I noticed was in Moorhead, Minnesota. Is that right? Was it Minnesota or North Dakota? It's one of those 2 states. The people in Moorhead, hopefully they're not watching this and like, get it right, big boy.
Somewhere up there.
1955, an innovation happened that transformed the world as we know it.
In what way?
1955.
55. Wow.
That predates me, even though I know you doubted that. But that predates me.
And me. Disclaimer, it also predates me.
Yeah. In Moorhead, I don't know if you've got Google in front of you there, if you can tell me which state it is so we don't cause them harm. But there, right on the state border, I'm thinking it's North Dakota, but right on the border is a business by the name of Dairy Queen. And that I do know. That Dairy Queen, I think, I know they have a massive dilly bar in their seating area. You know what a dilly bar is, right?
Oh, yeah.
And somebody, I figure it was a teenager that was having fun after the store closed, invented the dilly bar there. And since 1955 until now, what's that, 65 years? Can you imagine in 65 years how many dilly bars Dairy Queen has sold?
I can't even conceptualize it, I don't think.
Millions and millions of dollars. And I love capitalism. And I just see like a teenager like swirling ice cream on a tray, throwing it in the freezer, sticking a popsicle stick in it, and then coming back the next day and dipping it in the chocolate. And there he's got his dilly bar. And I love capitalism. And so we stopped there, and they've got this massive dilly bar in the seating area, the world's largest dilly bar. But I just got excited by capitalism on the road. And so I think
it is Minnesota too.
Minnesota. Is that what I said originally?
I love Google.
Minnesota, I got it right. So anyway, that's what I know about the road this time, and maybe we can get back together for my final thoughts, but I really appreciate anybody that's joined us on this. And again, no one's driving during this video.
Well, thanks, Keith. We will hear what you see next time. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.